Everybody, welcome to WagerTalk.com. I'm Scott Spreitzer. He's Matt Holt. He is the VP of Business Development at CG Technology. He's been with us, if you've been watching us, all throughout the football season. We're glad to have you back as we're talking some college basketball. You know, I like non-conference action. I like to get involved early in November. A lot of the general public around the country doesn't really think of college basketball season until January.
Absolutely.
And wow, Matt, did it arrive with a bang, college basketball January the other night on Monday night at the Allen Fieldhouse between Kansas and Oklahoma. Kansas wins the game in triple overtime, 109-106. Oklahoma got the cover, getting roughly 7 points or so. We're going to talk about Kansas at Texas Tech, a Saturday game, in just a minute. But before we do that, I wanted to pick your brains for a second. Do you have a team that may be kind of flying under the radar around the country as far as maybe, you know, people want to think about plucking a couple of bucks down as far as the future is concerned? Yeah,
I mean, early in the year, we were heavy on the Purdue Boilermakers from anywhere from 70 to 100 to 1 for a lot of different reasons. You know, 2 7-footers in the middle with Haas and Hammonds that are really good and an experienced backcourt. But I think kind of that stock is gone. You could probably only get 25, 30 to 1 now on Purdue. But a team that you could still get big odds on that we've had in our top 15 power rankings for 5 straight weeks now that is just starting to creep into the top 25 media polls is South Carolina. This is an experienced team. Frank Martin's a great coach coming out of the Big 12 in Kansas State, coming over into the SEC. I mean, they're 13-0 now. They'd have to completely fall apart to not make the NCAA tournament. So you can get a team at 70, 80, 100 to 1 who is almost a dead lock to make the NCAA tournament. They're big, they're deep. I don't know if they have the talent to win it all, but at that price, that's a pretty live shot.
I'm glad you brought up Purdue. I remember doing that video a couple of months ago with you.
Absolutely.
We were talking about the Boilermakers, and I've already penciled in January 24th. That's the rematch with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Yeah. One of the weirdest games you're going to see. Iowa's coming off a win over Michigan State. You think they're going to have a little bit of a letdown, and it looked like in the first half they did. They're down by 17 at Purdue at the break. They outscored Purdue 50-26 in the second half, and it was really a meltdown by Purdue when it came to turnovers. They turned it over like 10 times in the final 15 or 16 minutes of the game. But that's a situation. Yeah, here's the thing. If you let Iowa make easy buckets, they drop into that 1-2-2 press.
Yep.
And against a team like Purdue, boy, that's a nightmare to have to play against. But I already penciled that in. I can't wait to see that number when they go to Iowa City for the rematch. But let's jump into a Big 12 battle for now. Kansas at Texas Tech. The joint's going to be jumping in Lubbock. A quick note that Tech is playing at Iowa State a little bit later after we make these videos on a Wednesday. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it here, and then we'll have an update on that game, an updated version, on our podcast at WagerTalk.com. It'll be out late Thursday night, early Friday morning. Matt's going to be a part of that. So we'll kind of have an updated version of this particular preview. Having said all of that, before Tech faces Iowa State, the Red Raiders have won 10 straight games. What do you believe, first of all, the line is going to be for this game at Lubbock with Kansas coming to town?
Well, you can't get any higher stock than right now on the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, they've been #1 in our power rankings all season. Their only loss way back in the non-conference to Michigan State in a game that they completely fell apart, and they're averaging almost 90 points a game. And after Monday's game, which might have been one of the most the greatest regular season college basketball games we've ever seen. I don't think Kansas's stock can get any higher. I see this line probably falling somewhere between 7.5 to 9 points, which seems like a lot of points considering the situation. And there's sort of that old adage that you always look to play against the team when their stock's too high, coming off their biggest game of the year. And there couldn't have been a bigger game in the regular season for the Kansas Jayhawks than at home against a kind of co-#1 Oklahoma team after a triple overtime thriller. Buddy Hield going for 46 and coming away with the win there. I think that Texas Tech's really going to rally the troops here. And like you said, this is a team that's won 10 straight games. And not just won 10 straight games, but they've held every single opponent this year to less than 75 points. And with the 30-second shot clock that's been reduced, that's actually really impressive. Tubby Smith has these guys playing down there in Lubbock.
See, I'm glad you mentioned that because I talk about this team once in a while if I do a radio show in Big 12 country. And a lot of people don't realize, the general public, that Tubby Smith is the man calling the shots right now in Lubbock. He makes this a much better basketball program than they were before he arrived. You look at Kansas and everybody's going to be hearing about what you just said, plus they're a 50% shooting team.
Yeah.
They're like 46% from area code 3. It's ridiculous. So there's going to be this big buildup on the Jayhawks, even more than it already is coming off that win over Oklahoma. Texas Tech has beaten some decent teams in Lubbock. I was looking at their schedule before coming down here today. And, of course, they beat Texas. They beat South Dakota State. Very good team. I think 13-3 right now. They beat Hawaii, which is pretty good. They beat them at home. But do they have the goods, and I know they're in a good situation here, do they have the goods to hang with this Kansas team that has 5 players averaging between, let's say, 16 and 9 points per game, and you never know when Perry Ellis could go off for 25?
I think they do for 2 reasons. Number one, last year, Tubby, as he's starting to bring in his guys, had a lot of guys banged up, and one of those guys that was banged up and sort of underperformed was Devontae Williams. Tubby always said this guy can be one of the top scorers in the Big 12, and he's showing it this year, averaging over 15 points a game. And he's one of those do-everything glue guys, sort of like Buddy Hield is for Oklahoma. 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal or 2 a game. I think he's second in the Big 12 in steals. So Devontae Williams scoring, as long as he doesn't have a bad game, should keep him in it. And Eric Smith, their power forward, who's scored in double figures 5 straight games, is one of the most improved players from that freshman to sophomore year. You're going to see that, look, they're bigger than you think. They have plenty of depth this year. Tubby Smith is a coach that's won national championships. He knows how to coach, and that place is going to be rocking. And it's hard not to expect some letdown from the Jayhawks after such a big spot Monday.
I like Zach Smith on the glass. I like that kid Odiasi on the glass. If they can keep the Jayhawks reasonable as far as the rebounding and second chance putbacks, Texas Tech's got a shot to hang this number. I agree with you. So anyway, he's Matt. He's on Texas Tech plus the points over Kansas. That's on Saturday. Don't forget you can use the coupon code all weekend long, which is Matt10. Get a $10 package from anybody at WagerTalk.com. Check out the podcast late Thursday night, Friday morning. It'll be posted at WagerTalk.com. Matt's a part of it. We're also going to have Sports Cheetah on with us, Marco D'Angelo in studio. It's going to be a great time, and we'll talk a lot of college basketball, a lot more football, including some of the props at CG Technologies. He's Matt. I'm Scott. This is WagerTalk.com. Stick around for Sports Cheetah, Brian Leonard, and Marco D'Angelo.